So the first position in the kata is essentially the attention position. Very similar to the first kata, Fukyugata Ni, actually identical positioning for that. So basically what you're doing is you have your feet, your ankles together or your heels together, as you can see, and your feet are sort of coming out at this 45-degree angle. Okay, so you're not your toes aren't together like this. Okay, and adversely, your feet aren't sort of spread way out like this. This position here almost feels like a natural position, like your foot. If you just were to put your foot on the ground, it would naturally land in this position or something close to this position. Okay, you want your knees with like an athletic bend. Okay, you don't want to have your knees sort of like locked out. Okay, you want to be in this sort of like athletic stance, a slight bend at the knees. And that sort of goes with all karate techniques, but of course we're focusing on Fukyugata Ni today. Okay, for the hands are in essentially the identical position that they were in for Fukyugata Ich, as they are for Fukyugata Ni. Your right hand, firstly, both hands are sort of in this knife position. You can see I've got my thumb sort of tucked in. I have a slight bend in my fingers forward. Okay, you want to favor this forward position instead of sort of hyperextending them back. If you were to hit something with your hands sort of hyperextended like this, essentially your fingers would be bent backwards. You could break a finger. So you want to have a slight bend forward so that if you do hit something, the propensity is more for the hand to sort of collapse in the way that the knuckle naturally bends. Okay, so both hands identical. Okay, and the right hand sort of forms or makes the bottom hand, and you sort of have it at this position here, just sort of right in front of your belt buckle, not too far off your body, but then sort of not closed up like this. You want to have it sort of naturally in this sort of position. Okay, and then the left hand, if you think about the second knuckle in, so this is your index finger knuckle, the next finger in the knuckle for that finger should land on the knuckle underneath the knuckle of the opposing hand. So you're sort of lining up both middle fingers, we'll say, and it looks a little like this, right? So you're in your yoi position. I've got the left hand over top of the right hand, both in this sort of like nukete or knife hand position. Okay. The first technique, of course, is going to be the jodan uke, or the middle block. Okay. And essentially what we're talking about here is we're talking about the look. The very first thing you do before you execute the block is you look in the position that you're going to be delivering the technique. So that means when the count comes, you're looking, okay, because you're going to end up sort of in this position, right? You're looking in that position. So I'm looking on the count, and also as I'm looking, I'm putting my right foot into position at the same time. So it looks a little bit like this. So ich, I look, and I step. Both sort of happen at the same time. You can see, looking and stepping, looking and stepping, right? Looking and stepping. Now people ask, what's the distance? Am I stepping back? Am I stepping out? Well, you're essentially not really doing any of those things. You're sort of splitting the difference. I'm just taking a natural step out on a 45 sort of degree angle, sort of like the direction that my foot is already pointed. You can see it's already sort of pointed off. I'm stepping and I'm just rotating it so that when I end up in my final position, it's the rear foot is in that position of a natural stance. You see, so you don't want to end up sort of standing like this or like this. You're sort of in this natural stance in order to deliver the block. Okay? While that's going on, while you're stepping, while you're looking, you're also getting into the cover position. And the cover position is right hand comes up in this cover position, followed by the left hand. Left hand is in front, right hand is behind, sort of closer to your face, right? So as you're stepping and looking, right, you're covering, executing the first technique, okay? Common mistake, people have their arms sort of flat like this. You want to have your hand on a slight angle to sort of deflect anything that hits it to come off. If you were to hold it straight, it would sort of just, you know, you're absorbing more of that impact instead of deflecting that off to the side. So you're looking, stepping, covering, technique, okay? Now, right from this position, all you're going to be doing is taking a natural step forward, right? So you're still in natural stance at this point, right? See, I'm just taking that natural step. And as I do that, I'm cocking my hips. So you want to think about the step and the wind up happening at the same time. You don't want to get into a position where you've taken the step and now, after I've stepped, I now need to load and then deliver the high punch. You can do it that way, it's just not the most efficient way to do it, okay? The more efficient way to do it is as you're stepping, now as soon as my foot lands, like I'm already in this cocked or wound up position, and then I fire the punch from there. So you step through, and it's a high punch, and you should be aiming sort of like right for your nose. You see? Good. So, you've stepped out, you're in natural stance, you're now stepping forward, cocking the hips, punch. Good. Okay? Now, the next position, you're going to be stepping back, and you're going to be stepping back into jigutai, or horse stance, okay? So, right from here, this is a big transition. There's a big weight shift here, okay? The first thing that you need to remember to do is the foot that's in the rear position, you need to, as you're doing as you're shifting your weight, you need to get that foot turned so that it lands in that position. So it's like, right, I'm coming down as I'm covering up. So that from here, I just shift my weight and I deliver the block. Okay? See? Notice what my rear foot is doing. It's as I'm right? Into that block position. Okay, sometimes you'll see people do it sort of at the end of the technique, so they step back. You see, I'm stepping back, my foot is still open here, right? I haven't turned my foot. I'm in this position, and then when I do the block, they sort of like slip their foot at the last second. But here's the problem with that. All karate techniques come from chambering your hips, okay? And you have to think about the angle of your hip relative to the technique that you're about to deliver, okay? So if you leave your foot in this static position and step into into here, you see naturally, because of just the way my pelvis is designed, right, the way that your pelvis is designed, you're facing off into this position. And to get into this wind-up position, it's very hard, particularly you'll feel it on the left side, on the left joint, hip joint. Okay, so you can't get into this wind-up position to deliver the technique. The way to do it is as you're stepping, turn that foot as I discussed. Now, I'm wound up here. See, my hips are facing this direction so that when I twitch, they're now back that direction. So very important, right? So from here, foot is already shifted, right? I'm sort of in this augmented Zenkutsudachi stance, right? Good, okay. Now, the next position, you're about to slide up, right? Come back, up into this position. First thing to move, well, you look, obviously you're here. You're now going to move this direction in your kata, right? So you're looking. This foot is now, I'm now cocked, so I can come up into my high block. Okay? The rotation of the hips relative to the technique you're about to deliver is fundamentally important, and that's what allows you to inject hip into every technique. But you need to line yourself up properly using your feet so that you can be in that optimal position to deliver that technique with the hip. Right, so from here, looking, right? Looking as I'm covering, see? Looking, shifting, covering, up into my high block. Good. From there, kind of, or exactly as before, I'm just stepping through, right? As I'm doing that, I'm cocking my hips. So you might notice my belt buckle, right? Notice my belt buckle. It's not staying straight. As I'm stepping, it's cocking to the side because I want to load that hip, right? I want to load that hip, right? So from here, you're up. Cock the hip, step through. Good. Now, you're about to step back into a Jugutai stance again, okay? So important to remember that step that we talked about here where you're turning that back foot so that you're wound up. It's the same concept applies, but moving in the other direction, right? The right foot is in the rear position now, right? So you're turning it as you're stepping. As you're stepping, you're winding up, you're getting into your cover position, right? So you can step back. See my hip. And the other thing to note on this one is, and it's a little detail, but it's important. When you're doing it on this side, you're simply stepping down, you're dropping your weight. You're doing the block. When you're doing it from this side, there's a small shift or what's called like a tenshin in the technique. So you're not, let's see what's in here, boom, boom, boom. You're not simply going down, you're going down with a slight shift back, right? So you're here, boom, boom. Little shift. I don't know, it's probably 4 inches, maybe 5 inches at the most, I would say. Just a little tension, okay? So from here, as I'm dropping, covering, winding that hip. Good, okay? Big direction change here. Now you're going to be going forward. So you're here. First thing you do is look as you do your step and cover, right? See? Looking, covering, all happening together. Chudan uke. Okay? So from here, Chudan uke. Now you're about to step forward in a natural stance. Okay, if you look at my feet, they're simply just taking a natural step forward. Right, like so. As you're stepping, important to get into the cover position and wind up. You see, Fundamentally, when you're stepping, you don't really want to just leave your hips facing forward the whole time, you see? Because you have to deliver your technique. And in order to deliver your technique, you need to wind up, whether it's winding up that way or winding up that way, and then twitch into the technique, right? So if you're in a square position after you take your step, you then need to wind up and deliver the technique. More advanced practitioners will wind up while they're doing their cover or they're doing their step, right? So as I'm taking my step, I'm winding up, you see? I'm already, see now? When my foot lands, I'm already wound up the other way so that I can let the technique fly, right? So you're stepping, covering, winding. Good, okay? That's your second block. You're about to do a kick now. This is the first kick in the kata. So you've got this hand forward. It's essentially the order of movements is kick, right? Elbow, okay? But what do you do with this hand? These hands here while this is all going on. Like big question, you'll see this a lot, you know, different variations because people just don't know, right? What happens to this hand, particularly the blocking hand, when you're stepping into your Zenkutsu Dachi after delivering the kick? Well, the answer is it stays exactly where it landed when you did the block, okay? There shouldn't be any movement, right? There shouldn't be any like up or to the side for balance or anything like that. Fundamentally, you want to keep the angle exactly as is. So you're like this, you kick, right? See, my arm is still in the same position, okay? And it's a belt kick. There's no need to be going up to the face on this. It's just a maigeri to the sternum area, right? So you've got your block, kick, holding this hand where it is, and it stays there until that foot that just did the kick lands on the ground, okay? And you don't want to fall into this. You'll see a lot of folks, they do the kick and they don't retract the kick. They sort of leave it out halfway, sort of, and then they kind of like fall into Zenkutsu Dachi position, okay? During that free fall period, which is very short, but there's a moment there when you're sort of in free fall. You have no control. You have no control. Your gravity is now taken over. Okay, it's not so much of a fall into Zenkutsu Dachi to deliver the elbow as it is a purposeful step, right? So I've done my block, okay? I kick, I retract the leg, right? See? And now I choose to step into Zenkutsu Dachi. Arm, notice my arm is still here. The moment my foot hits the ground, that's when I do my elbow. Okay, so it looks kind of like this. You're here, kick. Okay, elbow should be coming into the center area of the body, kicking. Right, you don't want to have your elbow out here. Conversely, it's not in here, it's sort of going off in a forward direction. And you're not really elbowing up like this. You're not doing this as much as you're jetting it out. Right, so you're here, outwards, protruding, okay? Here, kick, stepping down. Now, you're about to do block, punch, okay? Big mistake that people make is so their hips are square here when you deliver that technique, right? Kick, stepping into it, unleash that hip. Now I've unleashed the hip. Big mistake that students make is they don't do anything with the hips here. They simply just cover, block, punch, right? Not super advanced. The proper way to do this is you have to wind up, right? So from here, cover, right, for that low block. Okay, so cover, block, hip, punch. right? So from here, cover. See, hips are now off to the side because I'm storing energy here on the right side, if you will. And then I'm gonna, right? Load again, punch. Okay, now, as we're moving up into this next position, which is essentially, you know, this open-handed strike. But how do we get here? There's a couple things going on. Okay, you just delivered your punch. First thing is, again, looking as you're stepping up into this position. If you look at my feet, similar to the yoi position at the beginning of the kata, this is where your feet end up, okay? So you're stepping from here into this position. Okay, so what are the hands doing while this is going on? Well, that's a good question. So from here, they're entering a cover position, and the cover position looks like this. You can see I've got my left hand in a fist position, okay? And you can see I've got my right hand in a nukete position, which is identical to the hand position, like the fingers are and everything, and the thumb tucked in, just like we did at the beginning of the kata when we were in the yoi position, right? I'm like this. So feet together at the heels, 45-degree angle, slight athletic bend in my in my knees, hands in this position, okay? The last thing I'll say about this is, again, you'll see I'm totally square here. More advanced technique would be to have your belt buckle just ever so slightly off to the left because you're loading. Here, the technique is about to fly out to your right side, okay? So I'm like this. See, I've got some tension here, so now I can fire the technique out. Okay, and I've done that because I've got a little bit of energy loaded. It's not a big movement, but it's very important. So from here, now, next, you're going to be stepping forward into a middle block. To step forward into the middle block, the first thing you need to do is you need to turn your right foot in the direction that you'll be stepping. So I just turn it. This is so that I can step through my body, right? As opposed to around my body. And what I mean is this. Lots of students, they are a little bit too late in turning the foot. And instead of being able to just step straight forward, they actually have to like step around their foot and then end up in this position. You'll get there doing that, but more advanced technique would require you to turn that right foot first so that you clear your own center so that I can just step through. You see? So from here, turning that right foot, stepping through. Watch my hip. I'm about to do a middle block here. Off to this side, right? Because I'm about to deliver the technique down the barrel or straight ahead. So right from here, covering, right from here, cover position for middle block, right? The nukete hand closes as you're moving into the cover position. Here's my cover position. Hip loaded off to the right-hand side, so I can snap that out. Okay, and then from here, you're about to do the second kick. And it's the same principle as the first kick in so far that you don't want to sort of give your technique up to gravity, okay? So just like before, giving it up to gravity would be like leaving it out, any percentage, right? Like 50%, if this is like 100% closed, the knee is, perfectly brought back. This is like close. 50% would be like here, 80%, right? You want to bring it back to a fully closed position. So again, there's a propensity to not fully bring that back, right? For example, see I'm now in this position, and then I kind of give my body over to gravity, right? So I'll come through, give it over to gravity, and I fall and do the empe or the elbow. Not the proper way to do it. Proper way to do it is control at all times, just like you were doing when you're doing the kick to the front. So rotate that foot, right? Coming through, winding, covering, blocking, right? Kick, bring that foot back in a controlled position. Step forward purposefully. This arm is, again, stays here until it goes into the empe position on the elbow. You step down, empe. Okay, now from here, again, you're about to do block punch, right? So you want to cover and cock your hips. Cover, block, punch, right? Now you're stepping up and you're about to do the open-handed strike in the other direction. Again, you're looking, right? Remember, the end position is going to be here, right? So I'm looking as I'm bringing that foot into that 45-degree position, because the final stance is like so, or for your foot position anyways, right? So turn as I'm coming into that position, right, with the right hand out front now and the left hand in this nukete hand, right, so that I can deliver the strike like so. Okay, now from this position, this is the final techniques of the kata, where you're stepping back, right? A lot of variations on how people are doing this. I'm going to give you the proper methodology, okay? From this position, the very next stance that you're going to be in when you execute the technique is you're going to be in a zenkutsudachi or low stance, where most of your weight, or 60%, 65% of your weight, is on the front foot. Okay, so to get there, again, I want to go back to this idea of getting out of your own way, right? So I'm here. In order to step straight back, I need to clear my right foot. So what do? I simply turn it. I turn on the ball of my foot so that my foot is pointing forward. You see? As I do this, I'm starting to drop my weight, you see? Now I can just step back into zenkutsudachi position, right? Cover. Right. The left hand is the power hit. So you're storing the energy in your hip so that left hand is what delivers the blow, right? So turning my right foot to the forward position to clear my own center, so I can just move my left foot straight back, right? Straight back, right? Turning the hips because I'm winding up. Block, back, punch, okay? The left hand is the hand that delivers the power. You'll see if you go back and look at Nagamini's book, it's almost like a double punch, okay? Where you're sort of like doing this sort of like double hit, okay? That is an acceptable way to do it, okay? If you train under different masters, there's slightly different variations to this. One variation is Sensei Ihachi Ota. this hand here acts as like a guard. So it sort of sits a little bit behind the actual punch, right? So you're here, you step back. This hand is covering. This is the technique, okay? Right? Now, from here, you're switching sides. So you bring your left foot up, okay? Toes together here. You can see my feet are together, okay? You're stepping back now with the other foot, right? So you've gone up, back, covering now for a middle block using the left hand, right? Back. And again, covering, or if you're doing the double punch variation, that's also acceptable. Okay, this I like to present this as a cover. You know, maybe it's covering the groin or something, right? And then now from here, you're gonna be stepping into the oi position. So as you shift your weight up, the left foot needs to turn slightly off on a 45-degree angle because the 2 feet are gonna end up heels together 45 degrees, right? So here. You can see my heels are together, legs have a slight athletic bend. And again, with the oi position, second knuckle is being covered by the second knuckle of the other hand. And yame, relax, hands to the side. If you're in a formal setting, maybe you're bowing once again. Okay, and that's Fukyugata Ni. Any questions, please leave them in the comments. I'll be sure to get back to you. Thanks, guys. Take care.